G'day, you're listening to the Virtual Staff Room and this is episode 26, Cold Snap. Well, thank you again for joining us here on the Virtual Staff Room. My name is Chris Betcher, and as you may know, this podcast is usually all about talking to teachers about how they use technology in the classroom. And this episode is a little bit of a departure from the usual format, in that rather than interviewing someone today, I'd like to play for you a recording that we made this morning with our Year 5 classes at the school where I teach. And the Year 5 classes are actually doing a unit of work, an integrated unit of work, on Antarctica. And they've been looking at maps, and they've been learning about the Antarctic Treaty, and they've been looking at the weather, and yada yada yada. They've been learning all sorts of things about Antarctica, reading books about Antarctica, discovering the explorers. And we had an idea that it would be really great to talk to somebody who actually lives and works in Antarctica. So I wanted to play this recording because this is the result of putting this project together, of putting our kids into contact with someone actually who lives on the frozen continent. And just a little bit of background about how this happened. After suggesting that a contact with someone from Antarctica would be a good idea, I started browsing around on Google Earth, and there's a layer in Google Earth you can enable which actually shows photos and videos. And enabling that layer and browsing around Antarctica took me to some photos and then eventually to some videos, and then I stumbled across a YouTube video of the Aurora Australis, the Southern Lights. And from there, followed a few links, ended up on the blog that hosted those videos, which then had an email address, and then contacted this fellow called Anthony Powell. And Anthony is a communications technician who actually works in Antarctica. He's a New Zealander, but he's working at McMurdo base and has been for the last few years. So after a few emails exchanged back and forward, Anthony kindly agreed to connect with our kids and talk to them about the sorts of work he's doing down there in Antarctica. Now, the students have lots of questions that they'd like to ask, so what we did was we organised it so that we were going to do a Skype conversation. So I was going to connect the kids to Anthony and they could Skype each other and talk. Of course, there are 3 classes of Year 5, so that was a little difficult, thinking, do we get 70 kids in one room and sit them in front of the monitor and do it that way, or how do we actually do this? The way it eventually panned out, I think, is interesting, and it worked really well, and that's why I'd like to play the recording for you today, partly because I think it's just good to hear how these projects actually pan out in the real world, and also just to give you an insight into the way you can organise these things. So I was sitting in my office at school, and I established a Skype connection to the 3 classrooms. So we installed Skype on the teachers' computers, and then from my desk I Skyped the first classroom, then brought the second classroom in, then brought the third classroom in. So we now had 3 separate groups of Year 5 students and their teachers in a 4-way conference call between themselves and me. Then I called Anthony because he was not able to Skype, so I had to call him on a landline. So I had to dial a number in New Zealand, which then redirected down across a satellite link to Antarctica, and the phone in his office rang, and he was then a participant in this now 5-way Skype conversation. So I just thought it was an interesting way to make something like this work. It was not at all difficult to do. The kids really got excited about it, and you'll hear that in their voices. And I think even the teachers were really excited about this as a concept and as a way of bringing the outside world to their students. So I'll stop talking now, but I just wanted to give you that background onto how this came about. And so here's the conversation with Anthony. Enjoy it. Hello.
Hello, Chris. It's 5L here.
Excellent. Hello, 5L. This is Mr. Betcher. How are we this morning? All right. You guys stay right there. I'm going to try and get everyone into the room, and we'll see how we go. So just stand by.
See, we're calling everyone, but we stay here. When it's your turn to speak, you come up here speaking to it. But not everyone will have to. See how it goes. Shh.
So I'm just trying to call in Miss Galvin's class now.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, 5G.
Good morning.
All right. Now, Stand by there, guys, and let me call in 5M.
So it's a conference.
Okay, so here comes 5M. Good morning, 5M. Okay, all right. So it appears we're all here. Now, I'm just about to go and get Anthony and bring him into the conversation as well. Now, before we do that, I just want to show you guys something. So, teachers, on your Skype panel there, if you look down underneath where the main panel is, you should see a small button that looks like a microphone crossed out.
Yes.
That's the mute button. Can I ask you all to find the mute button?
Yep.
Yes, found it.
Now, what?
Yes.
Excellent, great. Now, while other people are talking, what I might get each classroom to do is just to mute their microphone, just to keep the noise levels down, and then as students come up to your computer to speak or ask a question, I'll get you to unmute the microphone one by one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay, excellent. Well, stay unmuted for now. I'll bring Anthony in, and we will then mute some microphones and see how we go. So here comes Anthony. So this is exciting. We're now dialing Antarctica. We're actually dialing New Zealand, and the call's being routed down to Antarctica. Hopefully.
Fingers crossed. Remember your questions or just... Shh.
This is McClay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Yes, here we are. Right.
Hello, Anthony.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Excellent, excellent. We are now online. We've got you, and we've got the Year 5 classrooms, 3 of them, and myself, and so we're all in the conference together. So, kids, say hello to Mr. Powell. There you go.
Everyone.
So what I might get to happen here, Year 5, if I can get you all just to mute your microphones for a moment, just to cut out the background noise. And Anthony, what I might do is start off just by asking you to perhaps just introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about what you do down there and a little bit about perhaps life in Antarctica.
Yeah, well, I'm working as a satellite technician here, so basically I keep our communications open with the outside world. So I'm talking to you now over the satellite link that I look after. I spent 3 years working at Scott Base, which is the New Zealand base, and for the last 5 winters I've been working at McMurdo Station, which is American base here, which is it's only about 3 kilometres away from Scott Base. During the summer, there's about 1,200 people at McMurdo. During the winter, we go down to only about 120 people. So from February right through to about September, there's no plane flights in and out, no mail, no ships, no nothing. We're just isolated down here, no way in or out. So we have a doctor on station if we have a medical emergency. But other than that, we're pretty much stuck here. If we had big trouble, they could send in a plane, but it would maybe take a couple of weeks before they could actually build a runway to get a plane in. Our coldest temperatures we get in this area is around about minus 60 degrees Celsius, which is about 3 times as cold as the deep freeze at home where you keep the ice cream. Today it's only about minus 10, which is quite a nice warm summer's day. We've got 24-hour sunlight. The sun is above the horizon 24 hours a day at the moment and won't set again until late in February.
Wow, that's the isolation must be really interesting to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, I know the kids have written out some questions that they'd like to ask you. So what I might do is, if you don't mind, I'll just sort of go around the rooms, and teachers, I'll call in your classrooms one by one. If you can get one of your students with a question to come up to the mic, and in a big loud voice, just ask Anthony what they would like to know. Don't forget to unmute your microphone before you do that. So I might just hand over to Mrs. McClay's class first.
Hi, Mr. Powell, it's Belle. I've just got a question. At your camp, is it quite civilised, like, even though it's so stranded, like, down there?
Yeah, it is actually. A lot of people have the impression that it's really harsh and untamed here, but for the majority of the time when you're actually at McMurdo Station, it's quite comfortable. You know, you've got a regular room to live in for your own bedroom, and then they have a big galley for serving meals. Right now I'm just wearing a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. It's quite warm in the building where I am right now. If we were going to go out into the deep field, you know, then it gets a little bit more uncivilized, living in a tent and having to go to the toilet in a bucket because you can't put any waste in, you know, you can't leave any waste behind. Everything you take, you bring everything back, so you don't contaminate the environment. But on a day-to-day sort of living, it's relatively comfortable.
Thanks for that. All right, we might go over to Miss Lingard's class. So, Miss Lingard, have you got a student there that would like to ask a question? And Mrs. McClay, if you just mute your microphone again, just in case you haven't. "5L, are you there?"
Oh, yes, we're here.
Does one of your students have a question?
Yes, we're here.
Yep, one of your students.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well, while they're getting organised, I might just go over to 5G. So 5L, if you could just think of your next question. 5G, can you go next?
Good morning, Mr. Powell. Have you ever been close to a penguin or anything?
Yep, I've seen plenty of penguins. Right here at McMurdo Station, we're probably about 20 kilometres away from the closest nesting grounds, but you occasionally get penguins wander into town. But when I've been up the coast a little bit at some of the penguin colonies, the penguins are actually quite curious. They'll come and have a look at you. They've got no natural predators on the land, so they're not really afraid of people. If you're not making any, sudden movements or upsetting them, normally one or two of them will come right up to you and have a look at you, and sometimes they'll peck on your legs and just, have a bit of a play around to try and figure out exactly what you are, this strange creature they haven't seen before.
What type of penguins are there?
Around here, we pretty much only get two types of penguins in this area. We get emperor penguins, which are the largest ones, and then we get the little Adelie penguins, which are the just black and white ones.
Good morning, Mr. Powell. My name's Despina, and I just wanted to ask, what's the most amazing thing you've ever experienced in Antarctica?
I think probably the most amazing things to look at. There's a lot of different things. There's some pretty huge crevasses and ice caves that you can go inside of. The auroras, sometimes, there'll be swirling green and purple and red lights that take up the whole sky in the middle of winter. Or in August when it gets really cold just before the sun comes back, we get the polar stratospheric nacreous clouds, and that's when there's a very thin layer of gases in the stratosphere. When it gets below about minus 80 degrees Celsius up there, they start to crystallize, and when the sun hits them, they just get a whole rainbow colors. It's like whole sky is on fire when you look at it, just glowing red and orange and purple, and it's really amazing to see.
Yeah, we had a look at some photos of your auroras, and we really liked them.
Yeah, they're quite impressive. Even more impressive when you see them in real life.
Thank you.
That's excellent. Thank you, 5G. If you wouldn't mind muting your microphone, and we'll go back to 5L and see if those guys are ready with a question.
Yes, we had some slight technical difficulties. Away you go, Emma.
Hi, Mr. Powell. My name's Emma, and when the seas rise, how will it affect the Antarctica's wildlife?
Yeah, it's hard to say. There is, talking to scientists, there is definitely global climate change happening. It's, a lot of the trouble with the climate change stuff is that some of the newspapers will report, every little thing as being something wrong with the climate when, not everything is. So there's a lot of people getting misinformation. But as far as the wildlife here is concerned, there's definitely some effect on it. Locally, we had a huge iceberg break off a couple of years ago, and that blocked access to a lot of the penguin colonies here. So we've only got about half the number of penguins that we had 5 years ago. The actual sea level rise probably wouldn't affect things too much down here, because it's a fairly steep sort of a terrain, so a rise of, a metre in sea level wouldn't really change things around here too much. But no one really knows what's going to happen extreme long term, but if something like that could definitely affect the ice shelves, it's possible, that could accelerate things, more ice shelf melting, and, make things even worse.
Good question, 5L. Thank you for that. I might just flip back over to Mrs. McClay's classroom for one more question.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Powell. I'm Mr. Powell. I'm Natasha, and me and Catherine and I came up with a question. Do you just stay on New Zealand's claim, or do you move to other countries' claims? Mr. Powell?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the question there.
Do you just stay on New Zealand's claim, or do you move to other countries' claims?
Well, we are in what's known as the Ross dependency, this area. So technically we're in the New Zealand claim territory, but part of the Antarctic Treaty puts the territorial claims on hold for now. But under New Zealand law, technically we are in New Zealand, but pretty much this whole area that we're in is part of the New Zealand claimed area.
Do you work with people from other countries?
Yeah, with, like, in the Ross dependency, which is a New Zealand claimed area, there's McMurdo Station, which is a United States base. There's the Italian station at Terranova Bay, and there's Scott Base, and technically the South Pole, a little wee piece of that is in the New Zealand territory as well. But it's the whole continent is treated as an international territory under the Antarctic Treaty.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, 5M. And if we can just squeeze in one more from the other two classes. 5G, back to you.
Good morning, Mr. Powell. My name's Lauren. I've got 2 questions for you. The first question is, have you ever experienced frostbite? And the second question is, do you have any special foods you eat?
Well, no, I've never had frostbite myself personally. It's one of the things, it's probably the thing you need to be about the most careful with because it's so easy to do. I've had, early stages of things where, like the tip of my nose has started to turn white, but someone's pointed it out to me and, I just cover up my face and it's fine. It's those things, if you catch them before you actually get frostbite is the big thing. When it gets really cold down to about minus 40 or so, and if there's any wind at all, you pretty much need to have all your skin properly covered, or it'll only take about a minute and you'll have something frostbitten. It's one of the big things that we're really, really careful about because it's so easy to do. I've seen other people with frostbite. Like there's someone who just had a little wee gap of, about 5 millimeters between their glove and their sleeve and has had a big blisters across their wrists when it's been blowing and cold. Seen people with ears frostbitten when they've just gone outside to do a job for a few minutes and thought they could get away without wearing a hat for just a couple of minutes to do a job. And they come back in and their ears are being frostbitten and they've had, big blisters the next day. And as for special foods, it's pretty much we're stuck with what they give us. I like to bring down some food with me, but I must admit I do eat a lot of chocolate, which is actually pretty good in the field because it's high energy, keeps your energy level up.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, 5G. And 5L, back to you.
Hi, Mr. Powell. I'm Sophie, and I was just wondering, are there any more discoveries on the planet of plants?
Sorry, you've got a helicopter flying past there at the moment. I can't quite hear you there. Any more discoveries of what?
On plants.
Yeah, generally speaking, pretty much, most of Antarctica is covered in ice, but of some sort, around the edges, they're always discovering new species of plants and animals underneath the ice. In the ocean around here, there's constantly new discoveries. I think there's various little microbe-sized plants and animals that are growing in various areas, especially on the Antarctic Peninsula, that people still don't know a lot about, that their scientists are studying and researching. There's a whole ecosystem just under the ice shelves around here, in the ocean underneath near Antarctica that people know very little about.
Hi, I'm Emily. How quickly does the human body adjust to Antarctica's climate?
That's a good question. It's difficult to say. the first time I came down here, I was down here for about 3 months in the summertime, and I was used to spending a lot of time out in the cold, where it's similar temperatures to now, somewhere between minus 20 and minus 10. Minus 20 is about as cold as it is in this freezer, where you keep all your frozen food. And that's just the normal air temperature. You get used to it fairly fast. Then I had a week off when I went back to New Zealand in the middle of summer, and I just found the heat unbearable for the first 3 or 4 days until I got used to it again.
Hi, my name's Bianca, and my question is, what's the biggest iceberg you've ever seen, and what kind of equipment do you use to measure it?
Biggest iceberg I've ever seen is probably about, I think it was nearly 300 kilometres long. And that normally gets measured by satellites. There's no way to really measure it on the ground. It's one that broke off about 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, and slowly drifted away from here. So it was, the size of a small country.
Fantastic. Well, Anthony, I'm mindful of taking up too much of your time this morning, but I'm sure the girls have really appreciated the opportunity to have that chat with you. Haven't we, girls? So unless someone's got another really pressing question, we might let you go and get on with some work, I guess.
5L would like to ask another question.
One last quick one.
Okay, when did Antarctica start losing fish? Are there any other reasons besides the fact that fishermen got too greedy?
Oh, that's a tricky one.
Pretty much, it's so far as I know, it's just been overfishing primarily. Has been the only real reason for the shortage of fish in the area.
Yeah, I think... so, are you guys okay if we just call it there?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anthony, thank you so much for your time. It's truly appreciated. I know you're busy, and taking your time out to talk to the kids, they really appreciate it, I'm sure. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good on you. Thanks, Anthony. I'll drop you an email just to say thanks, but appreciate it.
He's gone. Chris?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for organising that.
That's all right. It was good, wasn't it?
That was wonderful.
That's okay.
Thank you so much.
That's all right, no worries. I'll pop down and see you guys sometime later today.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye. So there you go. Just goes to show how easy it can be with some of this communications technology that we have at our fingertips these days to get classrooms and connect them up in all sorts of interesting ways. The kids were really excited about it. The teachers, I think, really enjoyed it as well. And it's given us plenty of food for thought about where we can take the thing next and who we can talk to next. So we very much enjoyed it. And, of course, I also want to give a special shout-out to Anthony Powell, our friend down there in Antarctica, for taking the time out to talk with us about this. It was a really good experience to get him to do that. You can find Anthony's stuff at www.antarcticImages.com, one word, all lowercase, antarcticImages.com. And on Anthony's site there you'll find some absolutely amazing photos and videos of what life is like in Antarctica. So if you like our school and you've got kids doing thematic work on Antarctica, it's a great resource to have. And of course, you're more than welcome to take this podcast and have a listen to it as well. Play it back to your kids. And while we're thanking people, I also want to throw a thank you out there to Andrew Douch from Douchy's Biology podcast. I was having a lot of trouble getting my Skype connection to go out through our school firewall, and put a message out on Twitter, and Douchy came to the rescue with some great advice about a little program called Orthoxy, which managed to drill nicely through our firewall. So thanks for that, Andrew. Really appreciate it. Anyway, that concludes this episode. I thank you as always for listening. You can find the links to this show, and there won't be many other than Anthony's site, over at www.virtualstaffroom.net. Until next time, my name is Chris Betcher, and you've been listening to the Virtual Staff Room. Well, thanks, Pia. It's always good to talk to Pia. I think she's a lot of fun to talk to and extremely knowledgeable with lots of really good insights to things. So I enjoyed the chance to have a chat with her, and I hope you did too. If you've got things you'd like to talk about on the program, we're always looking for people to chat to on the virtual staff room. So if you're doing things that are interesting with your class, we're using technology, whether you do, I don't know, using VoiceThread or blogs or wikis or Web2 tools, or maybe you're doing some cool stuff with interactive whiteboards, or just maybe you just got some other activity that I haven't even thought of that uses technology in some interesting way in your classroom, we'd love to hear about it. So drop me a line, chris@virtualstaffroom.net. Send me an email, let me know. You can also Twitter me on BetchaBoy, BetChaBoy is my Twitter name, so you can add me to Twitter if you like and try and get me that way. Or my Skype name is also BetchaBoy, so if you want to add me and drop in sometime and have a chat, love to do that. The format for the show, as you can see, we basically just have a chat about whatever it is that you're doing with technology in your classroom. I hit the record button, we have a conversation, and we publish it as a podcast. It's pretty straightforward. Not a lot of polished production going on here, but it's a good thing to hear what people are doing in their classes, because I think sometimes it's really easy in education to operate in a vacuum and to not know what other people are doing. So this is a great way to share some of those ideas and some of those things that are working for you. Share them with the world. So anyway, as usual, we'll get this podcast up, and you'll find all the links to the things we spoke about in the show notes over at www.virtualstaffroom.net. So pop over there and have a look. And you can browse through and go through previous episodes and everything else on the site over there. My name's Chris Betcher. You've been listening to the Virtual Staff Room. Okay, well, I guess I better start recording now, just in case you say something brilliant.
I'll try not to.